Good afternoon, everyone. BC Richfield here, coming to you live from London. It's just gone a minute past midday here, making it 1 minute past 1100 UTC. A really big shout out to everybody watching this live today. We've had 3, 4, 5,000 of you across the shows recently, which is, I'm very appreciative of. Thank you for all your supportive messages, for all your questions. It's a blessing to be here with you all, and wishing everybody a really wonderful Wednesday, 23rd of July. So what we can see as we start out the day is that we've got the Ethereum chart up. Obviously, this has been a real beast of an asset. I don't often say this, but myself, the team included, have traded this exceptionally well. And we ran over last week how we kind of approached that, and I wanted to kind of cover that very briefly again. This week, people kind of looking at, the idea that the kind of crossover between the different instruments, the different, approaches that you can have with technical analysis, right? When you're trending, when you're ranging stuff, price spends the majority of its time actually in a range, not trending, contrary to popular belief. So we need to understand how we can kind of identify those key scenarios, because ultimately, before any trend, we start with a range, right? And one thing that we've been looking for a while is with Bitcoin, stepping into this range above its prior all-time highs, consolidating, allowing that capital rotation to move into the lower caps, starting off with Ethereum. We've seen that shift into Solana now as well. And I think, as we see, as long as the environment for risk remains stable and we don't get any major economic shocks, news shocks, Trump tweeting about, wanting to ban cryptocurrency or something, then I think things are looking really good. So the plan for today is, obviously, it's our alt request show. We've had a few requests already: Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, Sui, Axon, DAO, and who's the other one? AVAX as well. So if there's anything that you want me to take a look at today, I will absolutely make as much time as I can to get those through. We're going to look to get things wrapped up in about 45 minutes, make it a little bit of a punchier show, which we actually, for a miracle, for one of the first times, managed to achieve on Monday's show. Nit, my friend, how are you doing? Great to have you with us. So, as we always do, we're going to get back to the little teaser of the Ethereum chart in a moment, right? But we are going to take a look at the news, all right? Now, the reason this means, this really should be on your radar as well. You need to have a good handle on economic data. You need to understand policy. You need to have a good macroeconomic view. And if you don't or can't put the time into learning that, make sure you follow good people that do. All right. So for my macroeconomic data, there's several sources that I go to, cross-reference it, and then I build my own plan based on that. I never completely rely on. But why do I use is the wrong word. Why do I utilize these people or these companies? And, just to name a few of them, Macro Alf, one of the absolute best in the space. He's got a podcast with Brent Donnelly, a legend of an FX trader, called the Macro Trading Floor. I'd recommend it to absolutely everyone. No affiliation, by the way. There's really good people. London Crypto Club, another great set of guys. David Bell over at Think Academy, just one of the greatest minds that I've come across in traditional markets as well. Very outspoken, really top guy. Look to these people, see what they're talking about. Look at things like Bloomberg, decant that information, and then build your own picture. Imran, hello, mate. Yeah, good to hear from you too, my friend. So just looking at this, we're plugging this in right now. Obviously, we had Powell speaking yesterday, so that wasn't too much. We did have quite a bad print come in on the Richmond Manufacturing Index. That's not like a tier 1 high impact news event. That's why it's in orange. So focusing more on what we're going to be looking at running into today, because we can see across all markets, we've got going into a really busy day tomorrow. But today, it's just existing home sales. Now, again, I'm not somebody that's here to give you advice on the macroeconomic side of things, right, or the data. But from my understanding of it and the research that I have done, this is going to be an interesting one, right? Because existing home sales, coming down from what they predicted last time. The idea is that if there's a lot of homes available on the market, but the sales aren't going through, and we know there's plenty of available homes, the sales aren't going through because typically a lack of access to finance, right? Interest rates are too high. The average person doesn't quite earn enough money to get on the ladder as they want to. So this could provide a little bit of a shock today. I would expect it much more to affect the intraday traders, people like myself, and the team that's going to be deployed this afternoon at the Bird Nest for our live trading. So we will be keeping an eye on that. It's 3 p.m. my time as well. So, you're only 30 minutes into the trading session, an hour and 30 if you include pre-market, all right, which we do, of course, because we're trading indexes like the NASDAQ. So just want to cover this as well. Thursday, obviously, we can see we've got a really big news day across Australian, European, British markets, as well as Canadian, and obviously the US. US is always the key core part of our focus. It's the biggest economy in the world. It affects all other economies pretty much. And the dollar is the world's reserve currency, all right? So as we're looking in here, we've got flash manufacturing PMI tomorrow, flash services PMI, and then new home sales as well. So keeping an eye on them tomorrow. So all in all, if you're intraday today, you've only got the existing home sales to concern yourself with. And like I said, I don't think that's something that's going to be a major impact news, but we do always need to factor these things in. So we can get ourselves back to the chart and say, okay, if we've not got any major, economic shocks on the horizon or anything through the data, what are we looking at? Well, I wanted to start here with Ethereum, right? Because I got a lot of really, really lovely messages from people just saying they found the show really, really helpful in terms of looking how or understanding how I'm looking at these areas of support and resistance. And one of the things that I always do, and by the way, if this is your bag, and I recommend everybody does it, because people look at me and say, yeah, but you're kind of like, you trade a lot of gaps, you trade a lot of liquidity principles, stuff like that, and concepts. But you have to know where the buyers and sellers are. That's the absolute key to trading high probability setups, right? So what do we look for? We look for key areas that were resistance, this kind of area here, and then we look for those areas to become support, yeah? So when you're seeing wicks come into these areas, look at the absorption. Yeah, this is people trying to sell the market hard here. Ultimately, those sellers are getting absorbed, and then that's basically a very, very attractive price for buyers. So then we look to expand to next levels. Now, I've got this one on here because look at the wicks, right? The wicks show the absorption. The bodies tell you, and this is a statement from SC that I'll always remember from years and years ago, and it's such a true statement, which is the bodies tell you what price achieved, the wicks tell you what it tried to achieve, right? So what does this tell us here? We can see price driving up and getting rejected back down, yeah? So when we look at these wicks, we're just looking for these key areas where we've seen these consistent rejections. So doing this on a weekly chart can be really helpful because you can just focus on where have you got these larger candles, right? You can then move that down onto a daily chart and look how much more data we've now got, in which case I like to squish the chart up a little bit, and then all I'm looking for here for confirmation are these aggressive, these like V-shaped recoveries. That one, we kind of had a run on the top again, so that's fine. But when you look at these, price spends very little time at these key levels if it's going to reverse, right? If it does start to spend quite a lot of time at these levels and you lose these levels, then the chances are there's just not enough buying strength down there, right? And that's what we're looking at. Look at this reaction here, yeah, compared to this reaction here. See the difference? Back to the old terrible analogy section for you, but 2 pounds of water, one boiling hot, one tepid. If you put your hand in the tepid water, you can keep it in there for a while. You can even reach deeper into that pan to see if there's anything at the bottom, right? That's weakness. You put your hand in the boiling water, you pull your hand out pretty quickly, yeah? And that's where we see those V-shaped recoveries, and you'll hear that term used quite a lot. So then I'm just moving on to a daily, and I'm saying, okay, these blue boxes that I drew on the weekly, do they hold true? And as we look through here, we can see that they do, right? Why? Because, well, if we look here, what have we got? Resistance, right? What did we get through here when price came in? We found support, initial support. But again, look, time spent here versus the rejection we saw up there. So no problem. What do we then do? Well, we get underneath this level, yeah, resistance, price then sells off, okay? So when you're marking these up, you're looking for these key reactions. Look how price found great support here. Price dipped into this and then had a violent reaction back to the upside. When it got back to here, and you're thinking, well, if the buyers were here and they're here, then they'll be here again. Well, if you get that strong close through, and when I say strong close, I'm looking for a large body candle, in this case, a bearish candle. I don't want to see this level respected if I'm expecting it to flip, all right? And if I do, and we come back underneath and I get trapped, yeah, and then we come back above, that's why I've got risk management in place. So I get stopped out of my short trade and it allows me to step into a long. Ultimately, we didn't get that, but we're going to look at that a little bit further down here, right? So then all we're doing is see how price is ranging here between these two levels where it spent time before. Now price continues to range here and here, right? And that becomes our range until we get, look, rejection again, up, immediately away, up, immediately away. Same kind of area, not quite high up. That was that gap, I would imagine. But strong rejection again here. But then look, price fails to get back down. Yeah, this rejection here came back up, fine. If we then see an acceptance above this level, again, we would look to trade it higher, but we didn't. So we assume that this is just another liquidity sweep. Price then breaks down, and look, you get lots of opportunities to get in here. You've got that low, so you look for the shifting structure with volume and displacement. It allows you to get back in. You've got this gap here as well. I'll try and draw this in using this. So when price returns to here, that gives you an opportunity to short. Quite often, the market will show its hand to you from time to time, as long as you've got an understanding of where the buyers and the sellers are. And you are going to be wrong. Probably some of the best traders I've ever met are wrong more than they're right. But it's about your risk parameters and your return on your risk, right? If you're right 50% of the time, but when you're right, you're averaging a 2R return. And when you're wrong, you're capping that loss at 1R, then you've got a profitable trading system, all right? Ozzy, hello, mate. Always great to have you on the show, my friend. JBO, thank you very much, mate. Appreciate that. Yeah, by all means. We're going to take a look, by the way, guys. Ethereum, we're going to pop back to BTC, see what that's doing, look at the conditions we need to remain in place. We're going to look at Solana, Axon DAO, AVAX, and we are going to take a look at BTC dominance as well, see what that's doing. So we had a little peek back up on that yesterday, but that has the most beautiful, it looks kind of like a deep Amazonian basin with this beautiful waterfall coming off of it. And we want that waterfall to continue down if we want to see strength in alts. So just to finish up on this quickly, right, that's the reasoning for how I'm kind of looking for these levels, right? And this is the sum of many principles that we teach obviously over at the Bird Nest, and you want to take the simple clean data, and for these kind of things as well, we have some magnificent traders in terms of key kind of support resistance traders like Just Pit, the Trading Tank, absolutely unbelievable traders, believe me. In fact, I really must run you through the stats because I think we're over 80R, so that's return on risk this month alone from the calls that have been shared with members, all right? And just to put that in perspective, if your risk, so what you're willing to lose on a trade, your stop loss is $100, well, I'll let you do the maths on that, right? But it would have been a very, very productive month. Again, another profitable month. All of the stats are available for everybody. You can just go over to the website. We'll take a little look at the end. But please do keep in touch with those, and always happy to answer any questions as well. So look, just when you're putting these things back on, look at it, right? And don't be afraid to zoom in. This is still a daily chart. You can see the wicked rejections here. But again, look, spending time, look at this rejection, all right? So when you get like a rejection candle like this, and depends what you're using, if you're using CVD, you're looking for absorption, if you're using volume, or if you're just using price action, then when that candle closes here, for me, I'm saying, okay, we've seen an initial rejection here. Where's the most likely liquidity lower? We've got these gaps in here. Yeah, so we would look at those to continue because we haven't broken structure, or we would look again to this support level. Ultimately, price is really strong here. We get a great expansion, and just look at the retest of this level. Straight up to this level, rejection, price ranges here minimally before we lose this level. And again, look, we got a strong breakout here, and this is a great example. So strong breakout. So what am I looking for? I'm looking for price, as I said before, to return after the strong breakout's confirmed to this level and move higher. So this candle, I can almost guarantee you, would not have given you a low time frame entry because it's a large, aggressive, full-bodied candle. So first things first, if it had, we'd entered and we get stopped out, no problem. We've lost 1R. But what has it told us? This candle coming back down below here has told us it's a deviation of this level. Price has now stepped back in below resistance, meaning the retests of this area are for shorting, all right? And it served very, very well because good shorts in from here, here, and also here, all right? Again, close below, retest, sell off. All these retests, see price sticks here, yeah? Now, we would be thinking here, or I would be thinking, this seems to be spending a lot of time here. It's trying to break above. That's when something like a CVD or understanding volume here, or, order book data, etc., can just help you in terms of liquidity here. Are we getting those strong pushes through here? Is it taking a lot? Are the bulls really expelling a lot of energy? But even without those, what you can see is it's trying to get through. Do we get the close above our level? Not at any point. So I would be looking to short these. If I got stopped out on a few low time frame shorts here, I would be patient. But when I saw this move down, then I'm ultimately looking to chase this level here and the liquidity below there. All right. So when you're doing this, just sometimes it really helps set the levels on a weekly. All right. And then just compress the chart up a little bit and just look for these, for want of a better term, violent reactions at these levels, to give them confirmation. So while that's out of the way, what does this mean? Well, I said on Monday that, this has been so perfect. This is a weekly gap down here. We've had a massive expansion above it. We're holding this area. We're now operating within this range. Rejection at the range high. What does this become? A beautiful power of 3. Ultimately, we kind of tricked ourselves both ways here because that's the range. I'm going to do this in just a ludicrous color so that it really stands out, right? Here's the range, right? Maybe even a little bit lower than that. I think that's a really, really good range, all right? Wipe. First touch point, second touch point, third. Deviation, price sells off. Deviation, back in the range, price sells off. Deviation of the low, price steps back in the range, expands to the high. So we had kind of a power of 3 both ways here, right? We had a power of 3 failure this way, and then we had a working power of 3 here. So what is the power of 3? Well, for anybody that doesn't know, what we're looking for here is a range. The price is ranging around here. Then you're looking for manipulation. So you have consolidation, manipulation, and expansion. Right. So here we would say, okay, price has now stepped back in the range. This could be a range breakout to the other way. So no problem. We get trades in from here to here. We mitigate, we cover ourselves. And then if price does this, it runs the low of the range, steps back in, we trade it to the highs. And ultimately the power of 3 then ended up being this way. That was a fake. Because what have we got here? Consolidation, manipulation, our deviation, expansion. Okay, so as we're looking at this now, we're saying, okay, BC, that's great, but that's fucking already happened, doesn't it? So what the hell am I supposed to do about that? I want to buy ETH all the way up here. So my explanation was quite simple. I'm not buying ETH up here. I'm not even looking to swing it up here, really. I would need to see price establish above this level. We drew these in on Monday, right? Noting the key highs, the key liquidity areas here, because if I was a major player that would look to short the market here, I would want to see price driven up above these key areas, engage a lot of the stop losses are up there, generate a lot of buy orders that I can then take those, fill them, with the sell orders, and ultimately limit my slippage and reverse the market. So again, think about what we've been discussing. If it's a level or if it's a line, we see how it engages. We've got our box here that tells us this is an area of interest. We've closed above that, and just look how price engages with this line, right? Here we find resistance. Price comes down, closes above. This isn't the greatest candle in the world because we see a lot of pushback here from the sellers, right? So what do? We look for this area to provide the retest. And even with this, price moves down, closes back above. This is now telling me that price is, at least in some concept, considering this level fair value, and it's going to push higher. So we got the same thing here, right? Now this happened on Sunday, and then we've got Monday's price action here, closes as a doji. Yeah. So again, you want to see confirmation here. I wouldn't mind if, ultimately, if somebody was getting stopped out on this trade. Yeah, price comes down, draws down, gets back above the level. Happy days to long that. Closed above it, we've got the retest, we're back above, we've seen acceptance, price goes up, takes the prior day's liquidity. That's why prior day's highs, lows, etc. are very, very important. Then what happens is we step into Tuesday, but ultimately price got rejected all the way down here, and it's showing weakness, right? It's not showing strength for continuation. So we're humbly patient here, but again, if anybody was trading the long setups here, looking for the draw into this area, this was the gap we discussed. All right. But I did explain that I wouldn't be actively looking to long that gap, holding positions from lower down. So are the team. So for me, I really want to see a kind of another retest of this area here, because as much as this is great, if we squish the chart up again, right, when we see these retests often, it's not just often the retest of that first candle. Price can often come back to take out, people that were long from here, generate that liquidity again and get that faster move higher. All right. So that's where I'm looking for it to just spend a little bit more time up there. Happy to take the initial move above if it holds. Yeah, this is intraday, of course. Yeah, so scalping. But for any continuation, we want to see this hold. But I just want to see this retested here. And then I think we hold this area here, and this is the level we find another leg up from. If not, we've got inefficiencies in this move down here we could draw down into. Ultimately, the risk bid is quite hot at the moment, and there's a lot of inflow to Ethereum, and risk market's looking good. So it's a little bit tricky to not be bullish, but we want to be taking these trades from the right levels because we want to maximize our risk to return. We want to maximize the amount of return we're getting for our risk, right? Meaning that if I want to go long here, yeah, I want to take a long position just randomly in the middle of nowhere, and let's say I'm targeting this up here. Well, first of all, I need something to mitigate, to manage my risk. So maybe I put my stop loss under here, right? However, price comes all the way back down to here before it goes up. Yeah, let's just say we took that position over here. Well, if we're patient, there's two things we can do. We can look to take a position on a lower time frame if we reclaim this level because we're holding this gap and we're showing strength to come back above a key liquidity level. Or if we want to take longs from lower down, it's just, same stop loss position. Why would we change it if that's what we're using? We've got a 6 R to R there. Yeah, so 6 return on every 1 risk. This one we have 1.9, right? So if you're right 50% of the time, yet you're only managing to draw 1.9 as your return, well, you want to be right 50% of the time and have a 6R return. Now, your R is always going to vary from trade to trade and what you have. The point of this is just explaining that this is why people get hurt in FOMO. They come under pressure. They need too big a results to be able to draw anything back for the risk that they're taking, and ultimately that will erode you over time. Okay, so looking at this now, let's put some plans in place for Ethereum, right, which we're going to do here on the 4 hour. So again, a couple of things. This was the line in the sand. We were saying, look, we want to see a positive reaction from here. We got that initially for the initial push up, but again, look, can price take out that initial high? It can't, right? It struggles to build on top of it. That's our localized liquidity, right? What happened last time we set the local liquidity here? Oh, would help if I drew the right thing. Yeah, these were the key highs. What happened? Price closes above it. We see that it's finding support here, right? So while we violated this gap, so that's no good to us now because we come back above it as well, this all of a sudden becomes the line in the sand here, looking for this area to hold. Look, rejection, 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 strong move above, even held this level above it. Now it's just come back down here for a little bit of a breather, and that's not really a problem because if we take our Fibonacci out and we look at this expansion leg, we've had a good reaction here at the golden pocket. We're now above the 0.5. If we start to break down from here, I think we're coming back to retest this level. But if I was really looking to kind of build any positions here, I'd be saying, okay, what do I need to see in here? Well, I want to see some strength. I either want to see a low get swept down here and then a strong recovery back above this level, or I want to see price close back above here. Yeah. Back above here would show me strength because look, we closed above, retested this, buyer stepped in. This wasn't considered value, so price has been forced back down into this range where it was previously considered value. This is the key area, however, that buyers stepped in last time. So this is the area which sits above our key support level that we want to see hold. We want to see those same buyers stepping in here, all right, in this area of consolidation. Crypto Grid God, thank you, buddy. Love the name. Shy as well. How you doing, mate? So if we start really kind of breaking down and we start kind of taking through this level here, looking for retests on this, you could take some intraday shorts down into there, but be very, very careful. The market's incredibly bullish at the moment across not just these, but if we just open this up as well, we can see NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the Dow Jones are all up today. The volatility index, the VIX, all right, is down. That means people, so the VIX measures, think of it as almost like a fear gauge for the S&P 500. So it's people opening put options, which are basically, short options on the S&P 500. So that's down today. We want to see that down. We want to see it below 20 and it's 16. We will cover this in a little bit as well. And our risk on currencies are up again. So the yen pretty strong yesterday, causing a few issues. But today we can see the Aussie and New Zealand dollar up against the yen. Why do we track this? Well, the Aussie and the New Zealand dollar are known as high yielding currencies. They're also considered more of a risk currency, all right, where the Japanese yen is a pure safe haven currency. So if the higher risk currencies are doing well against the safe haven currencies, typically that plugs in well for risk assets. We also track the Magnificent Seven, which is Apple, Microsoft, Amazon, Google, Meta, Nvidia, and Tesla. Okay, but these, remember, don't open until, we got 2 hours now until the US market open, not the pre-market. These obviously, you know, if we're looking at equities and that, we want to look at the pre-market, but with these we need to wait until 9:30, all right, US time. So plans for Ether, really simple. Really looking for this low to get flushed out and then a recovery of this level here, right? So this. God, I'm not doing it in that. Forget how awful that thing is on the higher time frame. So recovery, strong recovery as well. Look at the kind of the aggression of that, right? Sweep down back into this area of demand, strong recovery back above this level. Happy days. We could even look for something like this, right? So we would look for that move above, price to come back above here. We would take out this trend line. All right, because look, resistance, 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 sweeps, close above this, retest this area, the trend line and the line. This setup looks beautiful. Either that or price back above this level. Yeah, so it holds this area here. Again, I would much prefer a sweep, but if we did just get an expansion from here, I would still be looking for a retest of this level before trading it higher. And in doing so, we would confirm this as a new area of demand, right? It's more high probability if we do sweep liquidity, but ultimately if we start to show strength from here, that'll be good. Yeah, Aussie, who knew, huh? It's funny, actually. I try and keep most things off my chart, right? So people that trade with me for a long time, people like Aussie and that, will, you know, not really used to seeing much on here, but with a lot of kind of newer people coming to the show, a lot of newer people coming into the space, I had to try and kind of, you know, a lot of people will have it a lot more visually. For me, you know, I don't have that on my chart because I just see the resistance here, here, and here. If I'm looking at a strong breakout, I'm like, okay, we've taken liquidity from here. Let's hold this key level. But they're the two areas, all right? That's the key bits that I would be looking for there on ETH. So hopefully that makes sense. Right, now we've got about 15, 20 minutes to go, and we've got a load to rip through. JBO, love your team. I've been following your traces. Oh, awesome, man. Well, thank you very much. I really do appreciate that. Yeah, 2020, Jesus. My first ever foray into Twitter, which was just horrible, to be honest. I had no followers and just getting abused by all these big accounts because, well, that sounds like a really twattish comment, but a lot of these people just, you know, weren't really traders. So they were seeing things on the chart and just giving you loads of crap for, you know, thinking you knew what you were talking about, but, you know, not running major funds in Germany or across the world like some of these people are. Anyway, before I digress too much, right? You're obsessed with order blocks now, yeah. Well, exactly. And this is another thing we can look at just very quickly before we finish this. When we're talking about continuation trades, right? Now, look, this is obviously in a consolidation. We've got the trend line on the way down. We can see that it's, you know, it's stopped doing what it was doing so well. And what was that? Let's look at this run up, all right? And you can do things. You can put moving averages on there as well. I really like these. My go-to is the 20, the 50, and the 100. All right. You need to study whether you want to use SMAs or EMAs compared to what you use and what your back testing data is. Testing data I've always done on these are SMAs, so simple moving averages. I use different sets for EMAs. I also have a 200 set up, but the 200 is, you know, miles down there, right? So look at these. What does this tell you? They've crossed down here. See how price just squidges all the EMAs up. Then they're back in order here. Yeah, the 200, the 100, the 50, the 20. So you don't just ape in here. What you do is you wait for price to come back down, allowing you to buy in a discount. Yeah, that's how professional traders trade, waiting for price to come into a key level. You don't want to be buying on the way up. You've got slippage. You're buying in with a herd, and then there's a big problem if you're deploying a lot of capital. So with here, we get the confluence. What do we get at the same time we're back above this level? A retest of this gap that's above support. What do we then want to see with our moving averages is we want to see them fanned out, all pointing in the same direction and a nice gap between them. What we notice here is actually, you know, this is going up strong. So see how it starts to curve back over, showing you just a little bit of weakness. These are a lagging indicator, obviously, but something that we can use. Now, that tells us that we're in a strong uptrend, and it told us that from here. Yeah, look how price started to fan out here when they're all in order. So as they come back, wait for those pullbacks. 20 period gives you a great point to watch price pull back from, wait for the breakouts. Yeah, and then if you get back below when you reclaim it, this is where our kind of order blocks come in, right? So I actually quite like this one here. Yeah, so just going to pop this on here. you'll see order blocks. So for me, a bullish order block, I'm looking for the bodies of the bearish or down close candles, close above it to confirm it as an area of demand or an order block, then looking to long the retest. So I would have been wrong there probably, you know. But then price came back beneath, we chill out. What happens? Closes back above. What do we then do in the close above? Well, set ourselves a new order block. When we set the new order block, what else do we set? A bullish gap. Where do we get our buy as price comes in and just tickles into this gap? Yeah. So then on the way up, what do? Don't fight the trend. Mark your key levels. You know this is the next key area of resistance. Don't overthink it, right? As long as you are respecting and closing above these bearish candles on the way up, yeah, then look for long positions. And we can see that's why this information is on the chart from where we covered previously. Yeah, comes up, fine. We just, initial rejection of this area isn't a problem. Let's look for absorption. Look at the long downside wicks. Buyers are still stepping in. We're also within this, let me draw it in, not take it for granted, also within this bullish gap, right? Then what do we get? Consolidation, expansion, looking for longs here, looking for longs here. Then we want to see price reclaim this level, which it did beautifully, and then look how it holds this gap, all right? And that's why Aussie's obsessed with order blocks, right? And in trending markets, they're really, really, really helpful. And if we're not in a trending market, yeah, then we're in a ranging market. And look how useless the moving averages are here. Are they? Or are they really helpful? Because look how they're all fanned out here till price goes flat. We then cross here, and this keeps you out of any trending trades. Yeah, look at what a mess it is. Until it reclaims it over here, what does that tell us? Well, if that was the last point of clarity here, and this was the breakout, obviously over here, then chances are that this is just a big range, right? You know, however you draw your ranges, you can take it all the way down to the wicks here. You can take it all the way down to that if you want. If we now turn the moving averages off, yeah, and those moving averages, bearing in mind that they got a bit squiffy here, until we recover them, yeah, then just look, we're just shorting the highs, longing the lows, yeah. And again, even if you're not taking that as a pure range, and even if you've only got this amount of information in front of you, you can see where the key absorption is. So we're going to allow for that area there. Right, and then prices come up here, set this low. If this is the information we've got, well, this move down looks like a deviation to me, and it steps back in. So if we want to be certain, though, we want to include the wicks. So we know key liquidity above here, key liquidity below there, right? So what do? We're just looking to short here and long down here. Now, all of a sudden, I've got more data here, and I can see the price is finding buyers here, here, and here, meaning that there's a chance that this low that it set when it came up is a much better range low, all right? If I want to bring that up to an area where we're seeing a lot of reactions, then all of a sudden, as I'm trading this range, I'm moving this forward, we can see buying from the lows, selling from the highs. We break out of the range here, you know, almost retest the range low, as we do here as well. And then when we get the retest, we know that we can short them until we step back in the range, yeah? Step back in the range here. This ultimately is the move that then leads to the breakout, right? But the moving averages were a really key part of that, because in here, it's just telling us price isn't finding a trend, right? Until we see them step back in order, which we get down here, all right? We haven't included the 200 on this, that's up to you. So you get an earlier stage here, but then look, just wait for market structure, yeah? Because look, big breakout, higher high, higher low, lower high, higher low, it's just choppy. But then higher high, higher low, okay, no problem. Let's wait for a breakout of this area here. What do we get? This holds nice. Order block here, early stage breakout, retest of the range higher, all right? So understanding whether price is ranging or whether price is trending are major points to consider. So look, I know for a lot of you who come on this show regularly, that might not be new information. I know I normally keep the education side to a Wednesday, but I had a lot of messages come through from people that can only attend the show on a Wednesday. Sorry, on a Monday, I normally cover the education, but a lot of people who can only attend the show today. So I did say that I would just do a little run through of that, because a lot of people are very interested in how we've caught such a large part of this ETH move. Now, while all traders are different, and I don't micromanage my trading team, right? Or the trading team we have, I call them mine because I'm so incredibly proud of them, and I'm very, very proud to be the head of that trading team, right? But they're all very independent, autonomous traders. In my opinion, all the best traders are, right? But we share this information. We all have very different systems and ways to go about it. So that's just something that you can use, right? And then look how helpful it is up here. All right, let me just hide these a minute. Remind me next week, guys, if any of you are here, that we'll turn these back on to see how they played out, right? But look how helpful this has been, right? So look what happens. Price respecting the order blocks, Yeah, even here, right? Respecting the order blocks. I favored this one because these three, yeah, those two here are within the bodies of these previous three. So I'm looking at this as the key area of demand. Price breaks above, nice entries from here, price moves higher. And then we do the same, right? So the other thing we were mentioning was price closes above here looking for longs, right? But then what happens? Something key happens here, right? That doesn't happen anywhere before. Price stops respecting the bearish candles and then starts respecting the bullish candles. And what does that mean? Well, if I just get rid of that for a minute, it means that this is now our bearish area of demand and a high probability one at that because it's swept liquidity from the high, broken down aggressively, retests of this area and within this range are then for shorting. Good shorts from here, good shorts from here. So now what do we want to see? We want to see a change in that. LTech codes, hello, mate. So we want to see a change in that, right? And we got one here, down close candle, price closed above. All right, so we've got this. Let's do that in bright green to show you it's bullish, right? Price goes above, got this. But now we kind of violate, we come back down into here. So fair enough, wasn't quite ready there. So again, aligned with our TA, we want to see a breakout of this level. We want to see a break of the trend line. And in doing so, we close above, we set this as an order block and an area of demand. That's when we can look to get back into the market with the other buyers that have kind of shown us that they're ready to step in at that point. Right, so we've got about 10, 12 minutes to rip through quite a few. And the other thing I want to tell you as well, guys, is don't forget, at the moment, our partners OKX are running an exclusive McLaren F1 giveaway. They're giving away VIP tickets for the Dutch Grand Prix with this package that's just insane. And all you have to do, you can see the advert at the end, go over to OKX EU. All you need to do is register, all right? And then you go through, you can find the information down in the description as well. If you can't, just reach out to me or anyone at the Bird Nest or message the Bird Nest site directly. We'll give you all the information. And just by entering, you just sign up, go on OKX, trade your first bit of crypto. You can do very, very minimal amounts. And then you get an exclusive limited edition team cap as well. They just ask you, get your details and they'll post you one out. And who doesn't love free stuff? All right. So just remember that because I'm pretty awful generally at remembering these things, unfortunately. And I do apologize for that. But, you know, what I really want is someone from this live show to win the VIP trip to the Grand Prix. I would effing love that, to come on here and be like, it was an amazing time. The Formula One's just absolutely amazing, and you just have such a good time there with OKX. The VIP is just insane levels of access as well. Right, so we're now going to rip through some numbers. I said we would just take a look at Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin is always important. Look, a little bit of a bloodbath here today for alts, which is fine. So BTC, again, we're going to focus here on the 4 hour. We know the high time frame. You can go back and look on Monday as well. Now, this does look like a really busy chart, but I was obviously just communicating why I was looking for a breakout of this falling wedge on the daily, back into this area of demand on the 4 hour, or a failure of this wedge breakdown. We close back beneath it, looking for the weekly and daily gaps down here to come back into play. We also have the prior all-time high and the prior all-time high. Very, very key level as far as I'm concerned. Look, resistance. And again, what do we look for with our key levels? Close above. Great. Look for longs. No. Slice through it. Retest. Sell off. Deviation. Back in the range. Sold off. And again, look at the range, right? Just high to low, high to low, high to low. Sticking to the high. Breakout with volume. All right. So, and that was CVD, sorry, but same thing, looking for the absorption of the sellers here. So where we are, just so we looked at it, we wanted to refine this down a little bit further onto the 4 hour, and the 4 hour had a really, really clean line going through here. So 1, 2, 3 points of rejection. And look at this. This is one of the things I loved. Deviation, price comes underneath, retests both upper lines. For people that think trend lines don't work, by the way, they're not just lines on a fucking chart. They're human psychology on a chart. You can see where buyers and sellers were active, selling, 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 buying, 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 buying. So don't let people put you off. You do need a good fundamental understanding. You need to process the news, the data. You obviously need strategies and good risk management that plays around it. But just think about it like this. This is just, candles are proof of where buying and selling took place. All right. So that's what we're using it for. We don't think that TA is some magical gift from God, and that if we see a triangle, that every time we break it out to the upside, we're going to make millions. I know crypto Twitter can make you feel like that sometimes, but sadly, it's not the case. But we're holding this level here, right? So Bitcoin at the moment is fine. What I really want to see Bitcoin doing is more of this. Just want to see it chilling out and chopping around, right? Don't mind if it chops down a little bit lower or continues to chop around here. Ultimately, we want to see the capital now flowing into higher risk assets, lower caps. That's why we're seeing the progress we're seeing with Ethereum, for example. All right, and if we overlay the ETH chart on here, yeah, we can see ETH as Bitcoin started to just chill out here. This is where ETH has really started to get some legs. We just want to see more of that, right? We want to see more of that. Bitcoin chilling out and everything's steady to rip. So with that, I'm good with this at the moment. What I would say is Bitcoin looks decent here. We've had a strong move higher. We've now come back down, retested this line here. This was just a low time frame area of supply, right, that we were looking for. We can see we're back below this here. So again, breakout above this region. Yeah. I want to see price out above here and holding and then moving up. Well, I don't actually. I want to see price kind of chilling out and staying within this area. But ultimately, you know, if it does want to break out and run, then we need to be careful with our alt exposure, okay? So let's look at Solana. One of our friends on here asked us for this as well. So this is on our crypto chart, right? I mean, Solana was just an absolute monster as well. So there's, okay, because it's over on the OKX chart actually, isn't it? So actually, let's just do this. Let's do this. Let's clear this up and just do a very quick top down on this on Solana so you can kind of see the process that I would use here, right? So again, as I'm looking at this, it stands out to me absolutely clear as day that this was the point of absorption. Yeah. Why is that clear of day? Just find an area where you've got long downside wicks or violent moves to the upside and then draw it back to a point at which it was finding resistance and look for those wicks. Yeah, take the wick higher to the low of the candle, put that across on the weekly, and it looks okay, right? I mean, now if I'm kind of looking at this, do I have a real kind of obvious area here? Well, I mean, yeah, here, right? I think something like that probably looks about right. Why? Because, you know, we've seen key resistance here, the wicks of absorption, and then tags into that area, sells off aggressively, rejection here. So again, price above this level and holding, we can absolutely rip. So this is kind of my key area here. Right, I think we're kind of trading up to the 259 or 241 levels at the lows. All right. Now, if I move that onto a daily, this should start to make a bit more sense as we see it. Look, great support, resistance, support, huge move. These are all decent moves as well. And one of the funny things is if you kind of take these areas and you typically split them with a Fibonacci, you get a pretty solid mid-range. Yeah. So now we see the range that we're in, right? Rejection, support, loses the level, rejection here. So what are we doing? We're now back above this area. We're back above an area that we've ascertained was strong rejection last time, yeah, and strong support here. So now we want to see this area become strong support. So on Solana, I'm looking for areas this can step in. So again, I'm looking for this area to be retested, but we also have this bullish gap here. So while we got the bullish gap here, just looking for price to retrace into this area here, and then give us some buying opportunities. If we close below this gap, then I'm targeting these lows, yeah, or this area of consolidation in here that led to this pump higher. That's as simple as it gets there for me on Sol. That's the play, and I'm very, very happy with that. We climb back down in this range, losing that. I'm first targeting these, but there is a chance we come back down to the key support down here, around about 127 region, okay? LTECO, please, BCH, yeah, sure, just rip into this quickly and see if we can get these ones knocked out of the park. Right, so what did we get asked for? That was it. I added this to the watch list before. Or did I? This one, I think. Yeah, here we go. So Axon DAO, again, this is a very, very, very simple one. I really, really like this because these are the ones we're waiting for the capital to rotate into. And we are at exactly the area that you want to be buying this. No, that's not true. I want to be buying this, and I am buying this, right? And I have bought it. I was very, very vocal about buying it here again. People are like, oh, God, it's moved lower. I'm just buying it cheaper, right? You know, you've got to get out of this mindset of, I bought here, oh, the market's moving against me, shed your position. Why? So other people buy it here and draw it up, right? If you've bought some here, fine, buy some more down here and your average price comes to here. You're now back in the money, all right? However, this is a key area that I'm looking to hold. This support line, which we are now beautifully back above. Let me draw this back across. Yeah, extend these out actually. And now we're just going to look at this area that we identified previously. Now, I think if you look back from the show last Wednesday, I said moving back up into this area isn't a problem. It is going to be resistance here, but we've rebalanced it, meaning we've already traded through it. So we've been targeting this high. Now, as I said before, I'm not somebody that swing trades this aggressively. I'm just looking to add this to my bag. Yeah, so this is something that is an investment, like it is with me, like the same with the State X that I showed you and bits and pieces like that. They are the projects that I hold a personal interest in. So I'm just looking to add to my spot bags. Yes, that's interesting points there from Aussie. So Raz and I look very much at similar things. So Resume's another wonderful trader we have at TBN, a really, really smart guy. He uses a lot of volume profiling and stuff like that as well, if that's something you're interested in. He's got a brilliant course on it. It's just looking for the origin, yeah? So it's the origin of the move higher. We're both kind of looking for these consolidations before you get these pumps, right? Same as this consolidation, small down move, big move higher, yeah? Same way as you kind of do with these. That was the move up, price breaks down below it. So we then look for this area here at the lows to suppress price to move it lower, yeah? Worst arrow you've ever seen, by the way. So let's move down onto a daily here, because this one started to move now, which is nice. Again, look, I bought it here. I bought more of it here. I added a little bit actually here on this breakout that you can see on the chart. And now it's nice because what I bought here, I'm now back above that. But because I bought lower, it's pushed my average buying price back down. And I'm obviously adding that already to a bag that I hold. Now, this is a really key gap because it supported price all the way through it. We closed below it here. It's rejected price all the way through here. But now I want to see price reclaim this level here. And then I think we just continue to move up. Yeah, so something like this, build a little base here. And then, just looking to knock out these highs as this thing starts to move higher. So really good project, really good team. Got a glowing fundamental report from our team there as well, who I trust implicitly. So for me, this was really very much of interest and continues to be. If for any reason it stopped being, I will just let you guys know. I don't get any money from these guys. They're not paying me to promote this, right? I'm telling you about this because this is what my team is working with. And this is one of the most interesting projects that we've come across. That, and like I said, Estate X as well, which just to show you that on here are these guys. And I just, again, look, we're holding these key levels down here. Really simple, really nice buy zone. Just trying to push it below this and they just can't, all right? So that was that. What else did we say? We said AVAX, didn't we? We got asked for as well. And then we're going to finish up on BCH as well for our friend. So, okay, yeah, this one was a nice one, right? Like I said, I love trading AVAX. It's just so incredibly clean. Weekly play was this. Yeah, closed above this, creating this as an area of demand that reacted beautifully off this key support level. Price closed above. We look for the retest. We long it. We just don't overthink it anything more than that, right? Yes, ADS as well. Well done. I'll cover that next week because I'm a little bit short of time, Aussie. But well, I really like ADS. It's a company called Alchemy. Part of my long-term holdings. They're basically looking to disrupt the advertising industry. So I'm looking for, I used to run a digital marketing company. I also used to work in property. I've developed properties, and I also ran a large company in London that used to do a lot of property development for the public sector and private sector before I became a trader. So this was kind of going back about 10 years. And I like the idea that I have an understanding of those industries, but so when I'm looking for how crypto affects those, I can plug in, my traditional market mind and look at these areas. I think, things like advertising being ripe for disruption. I think the property market's the biggest one, which is why I've selected Estate X, because they're the major players in this space. In my opinion, anyway, I think they're the best place to really affect it. But there's huge inefficiencies, cost bases, investments, bits and pieces. So yeah, Alchemy, that is ADS, really, really good project and a great team. So holding this level here, break out above, hold it. Again, what are we doing? Looking for the order block to move us higher. Doesn't really need much more to say. We're just kind of following the arrow. We're getting rejected at the moment at this higher, and look how clean this rejection is, which is why we monitor them, right? So we're going to draw that in there. Nice wicked rejection there, price wicked rejection again. So now price not really getting acceptance above here. So we're probably going to be looking for liquidity below, and that comes in the form of this order block. All right. So I actually mark that up as clean as I have done the rest of them. It should be an OBD, order block daily, or areas of demand as they're more commonly known, right? So again, just looking for buyers there if we get the right reaction. Dropping this into a 4 hour. Yeah, we can see the rejections here, right? So, you know, one attempt, lesser attempt. This came up, just swept this high, and now is moving down. What I would say is there's some pretty key liquidity resting below here, kind of like equal lows. They're not obviously in any way perfect, but you know, that low there, pretty close to one another. A sharp move here, bearing in mind we've got this bullish gap over here. You know, ideal scenario to long this, like dream scenario. Quick flush below this, very sharp reaction at the order block, slight pullback, long it to Valhalla. That's just what I'm thinking at the moment, all right? If we come down and we start just closing large body candles in here, then my assumption is that we're looking to kind of retest maybe this level, 22,770. But, you know, this has been really strong. It's trading exceptionally cleanly at the moment as well. So not something I'm looking to fade in these market conditions. So let's just see how that one plays out. We'll leave that on the board, but these ones obviously working pretty well. Whenever we have a breakout of these levels like this, we're either looking for the level to be retested, remember, or the order block, the area of demand, or we look for our gaps. And I do really, really love, you know, trading of those gaps. The other thing is if we don't run those areas, we just want to see price gain acceptance above here, right? Because this is clearly the area of rejection. So we're on AVAX. So we're going to finish up on BCH. Good old Bitcoin Cash, huh? This takes me back. Right, so let's take a look. Weekly, nice clean chart. Where are we at the moment? Again, these things should jump out to you when you're looking at this. Just look for these high peaks, yeah? And then as you look to the right, look for the low peaks. And then you just kind of say to yourself, right, what if I take the high of that wick, draw that across to the low? And all I've done is just take the wick to the body, yeah, on the weekly. We can see how this rejection, strong move above, support, large move higher, support, deviation. What happens? Price closes above with a large body candle, retest the area, and away we go. So we move it onto the daily, and we go, okay, how did it look on the daily? Even better, yeah. These quick deviations, price coming above, retest, price moves higher, grinds into it, underneath, back above, retest, happy days. And now we're just in this really nice kind of uptrend on this. So what I would do here is probably encourage putting on the moving averages. Yeah, we can see here the 20, a little bit shaky, you know, kind of dipping back below, but you do get this. Again, at the moment, if we look what's right about this, since we crossed here, that's the 50 coming back above the 100, these areas, yeah, so wicks below, yeah, or reclaims of the 20 period moving average have been pretty good buy signals so far, right? All the way up. So that's something I would definitely keep an eye on the daily. Now let's turn the moving averages off quickly and say to ourselves, okay, we'll turn another whole new set back on. Right, what am I looking at here? Where's this kind of key point of rejection? And I really want it to be key, right? I really do. I mean that. I'm just kind of looking at it and saying, okay, well, where does this really make sense? There's actually, I think this consolidation here is something of interest for sure, right? Because I'd look at this as an area of mitigation. So I'm looking to embody the bodies, looking to grab the bodies of the up close candles. Yeah, because the move up before we came down, I want to highlight this consolidation, draw it across as an area of mitigation. And what does that mean? Well, it means that this is what led to huge sell pressure coming down, right? That led to that cascade right down to this key support. So now what I really want to see is price disrespect that massively and do something like this. Yeah. Build some structure above it, a little bit of consolidation, and away we go. Either that or a big strong close and then a quick return and away. Until then, I'm cautious here on BCH. I think we could potentially come back down. Again, breakout play is that. If not, watching these lows here for price to do something like that. Okay, and we'll remember that's on our crypto chart as well. Now on the 4 hour, probably wouldn't be looking to kind of drive it down onto these kind of levels, but let's take a look anyway. Yeah, we're kind of holding this trend line at the moment of higher lows, right? I would think that if I wanted to kind of trade this in here, I'd like to have seen this kind of sweep a low or take some kind of liquidity, right? But, you know, following my own principles, there are a couple of points of interest. I'm just going to move that across out of the way. Excuse me. Is this 4 hour order block? Yeah, area of demand, price come flat down, back above it now, holding this, seems to be getting the buyers off of it. The other thing that gives me a little bit of encouragement from here as to why this might hold is this gap inversion, right? So as long as we continue to hold these, I think we press higher. I would still be cautious of these intraday targets as well. We've got a little gap up here, but lots of liquidity resting above here. And if we look at how price has engaged with this, if we expected strong selling here, we got selling here, but price managed to get even deeper. Yeah. Selling here, again, price got deeper. Selling here, we're kind of pushing up through this. So this looks quite bullish here. Again, if I was being really aggressive with this, I would probably consider taking some positions here. If I got stopped out with my risk below here, yeah, then I would wait for price to test these levels before getting in, or wait for the confirmation of the breakout. All right, legends. So, all right. I see a couple of guys just managed to sneak in. I'm going to cover these super quickly for you guys. All right. So, Ishan and Horace, I'm going to just take a quick look. First brand coin with over 15 IRL business. Okay, sure, can do. Let's take a look at Can Do, Wing and Close INJ. We can't take any more than that, unfortunately, guys, because I do need to prep for this afternoon's trading. Can Do USD. What have we got this on? Something like Mexi or something, won't it? Yeah, let's have a look. Let's take a look what we've got here. So, not tons and tons on the weekly, but what I would say is not massive amounts, but what I am quite interested in here is this. We set this order block, retested it, price looking to move up, and we did it after sweeping this liquidity here, which for me makes this area a little bit more high probability, right? So you come back above that here. So looking at this here, bullish on a weekly scale. Right, on a daily scale, we've seen a nice expansion here. Prices come back in, but we failed to really see any kind of follow through at the moment. So I think for more of a safe kind of aspect, I would be looking for this kind of area to be broken above and held. So we'll put that in there as that kind of key area of absorption. Price rip through that, retest it and away. You know, possibly some longs from back down here, or, you know, if we are going to show strength, because we have just teased a higher high. It's not the greatest in truth, but if we run these or we hold these and we reclaim this level, so something like this, yeah, or something like this. That's what I'd be looking for there to get involved in that. On a daily scale, I think these assets are quite good to kind of keep on that time frame. All right, you're going to get a little bit of gapping because it's a low liquidity asset, right? But again, if I was looking for the 4-hour early stage recovery, I just want to see price probably back above here. But in truth, I think that's the bottom of the black candle there that we would look at. But I would be looking at this a little bit more as like a breaker line setup. It's something that we trade. Yeah, so this is the breaker candle, the up move before price sweeps liquidity. If we close above here without forming another set of up close candles, I think that's going to form the base that's going to have another push into this. So I could intraday trade it into these highs. But again, I think it's so clean on the daily, right? I think we sweep that level, recover it quickly, retest here for buying up until this region. You can then mitigate your risk or cover. Then any breakouts above here and retests of this level, I think we're pushing up into these highs over there. And that is that. Oh, you're very welcome, LTech Codes. Very welcome. And we're going to finish on INJ for our friend Horace. Let's have a look. So, okay, it's obviously got the OKX chart, isn't it? Which is fine. It's just weekly. Sometimes I do like doing this from clean charts sometimes. Again, you know, weekly's quite strong here. We could get a retest of this area here if we look at the order blocks. Down close candle here, nice expansion above it. We know what's capping the market in terms of weekly highs, so we're going to draw that in here. Why? Because, well, we don't know it's capping at the moment. We're seeing an initial rejection at this high. Could be people taking profit. Ideal scenario would be a return to the weekly order block level here. Hold this. Let's not forget as well, if we just take the average, or even like, you know, where we got as many touch points here, if we're looking at absorption, yeah, this was rejection central. Yeah, also as well where price found support in here. So holding this area to push up, I think could be really key. You're very welcome, Horace, mate. All right, and then we're going to move this down onto a daily. Again, look at this, rejection, 3 drive pattern in here as well. 1, 2, 3, breakdown, retest, sell-off. Classic pattern there. So again, look, I like how we're kind of holding this level. Amazing when you go on the lower time frames, you see these levels getting so well respected. Normally means the price is trading pretty clean. So again, holding this area here and pushing up, if not, then a clean breakout of this level here would be what I'd be looking for. So price to establish a higher high, close above this down close candle, should we set it? If not, again, you know, we haven't retested this area here. So let's look at the order block on the daily and make sure that we factored in for that as well. So as long as this area holds, looking higher, any real strong moves below here, and especially any kind of retests of this area, I think we could push down into these lower levels, right? But for now, bullish, and that's kind of how we're looking at it. If I'm being a bit more aggressive with this on a 4 hour, if we close this 4 hour, which we've got, actually it's just flipped the 4 hour candle, so we've got 4 hours left to go. But if we close this, we manage to draw down and we have this gap remaining, my conditions would be price to close above this gap and then retested this area for driving higher. But again, until we establish ourselves above this level, then I'd really look to gain exposure again, maybe look to kind of pyramid into this and turn it into a longer term swing trade. All right, so hopefully that's been helpful, guys. One last thing, actually, let me just take a very quick look at this wonderful cascade on Bitcoin dominance, right? So we saw this last time here and we broke the key trend line, but we recovered it quickly. This now grinding its way down. We found a little bit of support down here in the 60s, pushed its way up to 61.09, where it is today. We wanted to see this continue downwards, ultimately rotating some capital back into alts. No secret today to see ETH and alts down a little bit more than Bitcoin as that capital rotates back into the slightly safer haven asset. But with equity markets strong, no major news catalysts unless the home reports come in, home sales report coming a bit weak this week, or we then move through to the Thursday data. But aside from that, things looking good in the market at the moment. We just need to make sure we're taking these trades from the right levels and we're applying the same risk management. Don't ape into things, don't FOMO. There will be opportunities. All right, just take your time, manage your risk. No point going gun-ho and blowing it. All right, you want to keep yourself in the game and keep that powder dry to deploy into really good assets when we get the opportunities. All right, well, thank you all so much. About 3,000 of you live with us again today, which is just an absolute blessing. I appreciate, honestly, every single one of you. Thank you for your feedback, your support, your questions, your constructive criticisms. Everything is massively appreciated and ultimately goes towards trying to make this show as good as it can be for you guys. So wishing you all a fantastic week ahead. For those of you over with us at the Bird Nest, or those that are interested in finding out more about us, you can find information down in the description on YouTube. And for those of you who are already with us, we'll get ourselves prepped, and in about 20 minutes time we're going to be moving across onto the live trading session where we're going to be focusing on the NASDAQ. We are going to look at some crypto opportunities today as well. All right, have a fantastic week ahead, everyone, and blessings to you all. I look forward to seeing you again on Monday.